Hello, I'm Debbie, also known as Vale the Stitcher. Welcome to my channel. Um, you can find me on Instagram as Vale the Stitcher. I also design cross-stitch patterns in the fantasy and Halloween variety. You can find me on Etsy at valestitchery.etsy.com. And welcome back. We are talking about cross stitch here on this channel. I last recorded last Tuesday night, and it is now Monday, April 27th around 6 p.m. And we're back again with a lot to talk about. A couple whips from Tuesday night, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then I participated in 24 hours of cross stitch marathon over the weekend. And then we have some haul, we have some plans for this week through Thursday, and then we have some Maynia plans to talk about. So I have a couple of different piles here to show you guys. Yeah, so let's just get into it. Work was a little crazy today, so I have kind of detailed notes in front of me, otherwise I wouldn't be able to coherently speak to you this evening because my brain is just so. I will just take it slow and we will get through each item. Yeah, so I did a ton of cross stitching last week, and I have to say that I feel really productive. The last couple of weeks, I've just been starting all of the things because focusing on goals felt like too much of an obligation for my hobby during this time. So I was just starting all the things, doing whatever I wanted, not really making much progress on anything. And I feel like the marathon over the weekend of trying to cross stitch 24 hours in the weekend really got me motivated to see progress like that all the time. So we'll talk about that as we go through it. But yeah, so last Tuesday night, I continued on with what I was working through. It's one of my patterns, and I didn't have a mock-up to show you last time, but I was trying to work out the coloring on the Hobbit door. And I had finally figured out what colors I wanted to use for it, so I dropped whatever I was doing to start stitching on that. And I stitched on it from like a week ago. It was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and on Tuesday night when I recorded, that's what I had been working on. So I continued working on it on Tuesday night before I set it down. And this pattern is called The Perfect House, and it has a quote from The Hobbit in it that says, "That house was a perfect house, whether you like food or sleep or storytelling or singing or just sitting and thinking best, or a pleasant mixture of them all. Merely to be there was a cure for weariness, fear, and sadness." And this quote actually is describing the last homely house of Elrond at Rivendell, but when I think about that description out of context, when I think about the perfect house in terms of Tolkien world, I always think of a hobbit hole. So a hobbit door came to mind, and I just wanted to stitch this. I would love to have this up in my house, and this design like just really gives me all the happy, warm, fuzzy feelings. And in this time of crazy stress and anxiety, like this is what I want right now. So I finished the door, which I'll get a close-up on more in a second, but then I started on the letters. So last Tuesday night, I finished the door, and I put in the words "that house," and then that was it, and then I moved on. As you can tell, I've worked on it since, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So my Hobbit door has 0 backstitch in it. I do not like backstitching. If I wanted to backstitch, there are plenty of patterns out there that are like works of art, you know, just works of art that were translated over to cross stitch using backstitch lines to provide the necessary definition so you knew what it was. Something like this, I designed it directly into my cross stitch software, and I did not want to use any backstitch lines to differentiate the motif. So I wanted to make sure that the colors I were using were a little extra contrasting. So the green in the middle like really took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to use, because it felt like it was too bright, But then when you put it all together with the brightness of the center of the clay bricks around the outside, and then you have the center of the green panel, the wooden panels a little brighter, like then it makes sense. So I'm super happy with it. I wanted it to be brighter. It's supposed to be a bright piece. So I finally got over the hump on that, and now I want to finish up the lettering, which it's a lot of lettering, but lettering goes by fast. And these letters are not, sorry, these letters are not large by any means. So I look forward to finishing this up. But anyway, you will see that back in a minute when I get to it again. So I worked on that last Tuesday night until the night was completed. Then the next day on Wednesday, there was something on, or maybe I worked on the perfect house through Wednesday. I think I did. On Thursday, I pulled out Welcome to New York City because I was not going to be working on this through 24 Hours of Cross Stitch, and because it's a gift, I need to keep working on this. So I pulled this out. Now, last time you saw it, let's see if I can do this backwards. Okay, last time you saw it, this building on the far side was complete down to this third window. And I had worked over here, or no, it was down to the fourth window, and then I had worked over here and worked on the top of this building. And I believe that's all that was done. So the sky, this part of the building, and then this building. So again, this is being, the perfect house is stitched on 32 count, some kind of linen. It is not even, I'm not sure what it is. 32 count linen in Confederate Gray by Weeks Dye Works. And I'm stitching it 2/2. Welcome to New York City. I am stitching on a 28 count even weave, 2 strands over 1 thread of fabric, using the tent stitch. Because this is a full coverage piece, I wanted to be able to get through it as quickly as possible because this was actually an impulse purchase off Etsy. This is a pattern by Country Magic Stitch. They have a whole line of what they call like travel posters. So this guy is going to be a gift for my sister who lives in New York City, and you know, they've had such a crazy, tough, terrible time lately. And I want to be able to send this to her as just a fun, weird gift to get in the mail because we grew up on, you know, the Ghostbusters, and I know she would get a huge kick out of this. So anyway, as you can tell, I'm basically stitching all around the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I want to stitch him last. So since you guys saw it, I finished up a little bit of colors down in this corner of the building, and then I went up to the sky and I carried it all the way over, and then I worked down on this building here. And if you can believe it, that was only 1 day of stitching. This stitches up so fast because they are blocks of color and I'm using the tent stitch over 1 method. So, yeah, I'm super excited with the progress. There's not much more on this page before I can come down to the 2 bottom pages, and then I'll do the Marshmallow Man last. This is coming out again soon, which we will talk about in plans. I am dropping stuff. So let's see. These are plans. Okay, so that brings me to Friday, which is when I started the 24 Hours of Cross Stitch, the 24 Hours of Cross Stitch Marathon. This is something that was conceptualized by Jen Lee, who has a Flosstube channel on YouTube. She's known as Quirks and Stitches on Instagram. She and her mother basically challenged each other to stay up for 24 hours straight in cross-stitching. And so I believe this past weekend was the seventh iteration of this, because ever since that first time, the rules have kind of changed and morphed, and of course people make it their own, but basically it's morphed into trying to stitch for 24 hours within Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of a weekend. So for me, my goal was to try to do 4 hours on Friday night after work, 10 hours on Saturday, and 10 hours on Sunday. Now, when I described this to my friends, they were like, how is that any different than what you normally do? Which is a really good question because I cross stitch a lot. But what I found cross stitching this weekend is that normally I sit and I stitch, I'm talking, I'm watching a show, I'm getting up, I'm doing other things, I'm coming back. So I'm not paying attention to the amount of time that I'm actually spending stitching. I typically don't count my stitches, I don't count my time. It's just something I do when I'm doing. You know what I mean? So in counting my time, knowing that I was going to take a picture every hour on the hour meant that I was like really focused on what I was doing. And I was stitching faster. I was super focused because I intentionally, like, I wanted each of my photos to show, I wanted you to be able to look at each photo and see the progress. So it was really interesting. Like, I got so much done. I felt like I got so much progress, but that's because I was really focused, because I was paying attention to every hour that I was stitching. By the end of the weekend, I was exhausted because that's mental, like, that's the type of focus that you put into your day job. So this is my hobby. If I'm putting that much focus into my day job and my hobby, which I'm supposed to be using to relax, you are burning the candle at both ends. And I have to say, today on Monday, like, I am so tired today. I had to have some afternoon coffee, and that did not help. I'm still yawning. So anyway, so for 24 hours of cross stitch, for Friday night, for those 4 hours, I was going to work on one project. Then on Saturday, I was going to work on one project till I got to a certain point, and then I had another project in the wings waiting. And then on Sunday, I was going to split it up into 3 projects, 4 hours, 4 hours, and 2 hours. So that was my initial plans. Did not end up that way, but I feel that's the story of a lot of cross stitching. So on Friday night, I pulled out Sunflowers Farm by Cuore de Batticuore, which I am butchering, but that's okay. You get this in here. I love this piece so much. I love sunflowers. They are so cheerful. I feel like you could have this up during spring and summer and potentially fall, because, I mean, sunflower is really a summer fall type flower, but still, this is so cheerful that you could probably have it up for 3 seasons and not apologize. So I'm having so much trouble orienting myself. I am in this top left corner. I started with the border and then was working my way in. And I will describe what it looked like the last time you saw it. I always fold all my projects, inward, and then I don't prep them ahead of time, so I have to like rearrange them. Okay. Oh, let's just do this. All right, let's see. I'm trying to do something with my lighting because the yellowing of my, there. Okay, so the last time you saw it, I had that corner border started. I had the corner flower, and then I had all the green. Since you've seen it, I put in the smaller flowers in the border and then everything else. This is like so fun to stitch. The little flowers go so fast. There we go. And look at those little bees. Those little bees, their bodies are 4 stitches. It's like a 4-stitch square, 2 black and 2 yellow, and then it's got the wings and like little antennae. It's so cute. And then look at that bouquet she's holding, and then she is adorable. She is adorable. And the last thing I did was get the table complete because I was going to start on the jars of honey that are on the table. Yeah. I can't wait to stitch every single one of these sunflowers. And that house, I cannot wait. It's going to be so fun. And look at the little crow with the hat on. Yeah. I have to say, when I first showed this project and my the first progress on it, I ended up getting 2 comments of people that were excited to see this project stitched up. So I am happy to report some progress on it. It is super fun. This is 40 Count Nocturne by Picture This Plus. It's maybe showing up a little grayer than it is. That's pretty accurate. It's like a dusty cobalt blue. I love this fabric. This is actually one of the few pieces of fabric I purchased like again. Usually every time I buy fabric, I try to buy a different kind so I can just sample them all. But this was a repeat purchase because I really enjoyed the first piece that I got. Okay, so that's not coming back out for a little while. Okay, so that was Friday night, 4 hours. On Saturday, my main goal was to work on Ex Machina. That page that I've been working on just was itching for a page finish. So I told myself that I would have up to 10 hours to work on it, and that if I finished it early, the page finish, then I could stitch on something else. So I've been working on her hat all the way down to her goggles. And let me show you where I got to. I'm going to have to pause the video and pick up something from this side and pick up something from this side. But not yet. In a minute. Move that. Okay. So I am happy to report that I did get a page finish. I ended up working on this for 6 hours. Well, actually, let me show you the whole thing. So here is the whole thing of everything I've stitched. This is 5 pages, and then I ended up starting on another page up top. My minimum goal for this year is to get to the far side of the top row, which means 3 more pages. So we're getting into May, and I can definitely do it. So far, I've completed 2 pages this year. Last year is when I started this piece, and I did 3 pages to get me through that clock. And I've done 2 pages this year so far. So if I do 1 more page, that will at least be equal to my effort of last year, which will be good. But I would love to get to the other side. And then let me roll this up a little bit. So it's funny because I'm a pretty linear person when I make plans and when I want to complete something. And so my goal was always to work row by row to get through this piece. And when I hit page 4, the top of the hat is in that page. And page 4 was the first page I used in Pattern Keeper. And so, of course, you can see all of the symbols all around the page. And when I started working on this hat, I just naturally crept into this page, and then I couldn't help myself. Some of the stitches were just shaping the edge of the hat, and then I was lost. I was like, I have to do this page. So, yeah, I love it. You would think that the lacing would have been confetti heavy, but it really wasn't. The lacing was easy. Those goggles, though, were definitely confetti, but as you can see, they look amazing. And considering when I started this piece, I started with the clock, which was insane confetti. It was straight up confetti. The whole thing was confetti. Those colors look pretty smooth, but there are so many different colors in there. This is a regular chart. I can only imagine that a max color chart, that clock would have been crazy insane with confetti. So, anyways, I finished the page with like 10 minutes into an hour, so I decided to start the next page up here. And of course, once you get that page finish, you just want to do another page finish. Unfortunately, like now that I'm starting to get more goal driven, the goals are starting to solidify more of like what do I want to focus on, which is interesting because I probably have 6 kitted charts that I was going to continue on with my mass startitis, and now that I'm hitting that groove of like goal driven stitching, when we talk about plans, you'll see what I mean, but like a lot of those aren't going to get started for a while. I need to reach some goals on some of my more important to me pieces right now, so we'll see. This one can go in that pile. Okay, I'm going to pause real quick and pick up the things that fell on the floor, and then we'll get to Saturday evening. So let me click. All right, got everything back. Let me just get my notes once again. Okay, so I worked on Ex Machina for a total of 6 hours, and I ended up getting about 1,100 stitches in. And what was interesting is that I was averaging about 200 stitches an hour until I hit the confetti of the goggle I was working on. And that kind of data, considering I don't normally keep track of things, I mean, when I'm working on a full coverage piece, I use Pattern Keeper now, and so Pattern Keeper automatically tallies up the amount of stitches you're doing per day as you're highlighting and marking them up. And it also provides you the total of how much total you've stitched out of the full piece and gives you a percentage complete. So that data is really useful, but because I was really focused on how much I was getting done in an hour and taking photographic proof like on the hour, every hour, I was so focused, and averaging 200 stitches an hour on a full coverage piece was pretty good for me. Yeah, so that was really interesting data. I might have to use those kind of mind games in the future if they weren't so taxing. Okay, so that evening I kind of waffled back and forth about what I wanted to work on that evening once I had finished Ex Machina, because originally I was just going to stitch for 10 hours on Ex Machina no matter what, and after 6 hours of focused hardcore stitching, I needed a change. So I was planning to start this, but I was going to start it during Maynia. So I ended up getting an early start on Wild Violet Cross Stitches Be Well Moon Crystal Bouquet, which she designed specifically for this time frame with the hashtag Be Well and Stitch movement. Now, out of all of those patterns, this is the only one I've collected. I have a very particular style when I choose to stitch something, and this is the only one that really stuck out to me, and I just fell in love with it immediately. So I told myself that if I was going to stitch this, I had to stitch it from stash. And so I had 3 pieces of fabric that I was going to do a floss toss on. And no matter which fabric I chose, because I didn't have a gorgeous gray fabric, I was going to have to do some color conversions. And I ended up landing on this small piece. It's like a 12 by 17 piece of Gothic by Picture This Plus. That is upside down. And that is pretty true. It's just this gorgeous, moody blue color. And I cannot keep my items straight to save my life. Sorry, I'll get better. So the moon colors are the called for. But I lightened up the green a bit to pop more on this blue fabric, and then I changed the color of the, to me they look like thistles, the flowers. And then I also slightly changed the colors of the crystal to kind of pop more on my fabric. So The moon stitched up in 3 hours. For 3 hours I worked on this and I completed the moon. And this piece of Gothic is a 28 count cashel linen. And I have to say, I hate cashel. I hate that base. Give me a Lugana any day. It feels really bulky. And my stitches don't want to lay flat. I feel like I have to railroad every single stitch, and to me that's just annoying. I don't want to railroad my stitches. So, but anyway, you can't tell. You cannot tell. I think it looks great. It came out amazing. And I will have to stitch more on this. I'm definitely going to hang this up in my room. This would look, I mean, this would definitely fit my aesthetic in here. So anyway, I worked on that for 3 hours and then I was done. And what's interesting is, so I worked for a total of 8 hours. No, I worked for 9 hours on Saturday instead of my 10 that I had planned. But at the 8 hour mark, I felt done. I felt done. I was like, no, I could be done right now and go do something else. But I had planned for 10 hours, so I would have stopped at hour 8, except that I wanted to finish the moon. And so with 1 more hour, I was able to get the moon done. So I stitched for 9 hours, which put me an hour behind my plan. And I already knew that night that I wasn't going to make the 24 hours at that point. If I knew that I was going to be done by the 8 hour mark, then the next day, I was probably only going to do 8 hours. I wasn't going to do 10 hours plus the 1 hour I missed. That wasn't going to happen. This one can go over here. So, on Sunday, my plan was to work on 3 projects. I was going to work 4 hours on Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow. I was going to work the next 4 hours on Welcome to New York City. And then I was going to work the last 2 hours on Night Walk Down by the Blue Flower. But then on Sunday, I did my Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow. I'm in love with this piece. Any chance I can to work on it, I will. But then when I was going to start working on Welcome to New York City, I realized that my sister follows my Instagram pretty closely, and I really doubt she watches these Flosstube videos. So I decided that in the spirit of trying to keep it a surprise a little bit, that I didn't want to stitch on it because I haven't posted it on Instagram at all. So I ended up doing something different. Yeah, but I didn't decide until Sunday after I was done with Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow. Okay, so Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow is something new that I purchased in my crazy April mania. I've been in love with this piece for a while, and during COVID-19 is when I finally decided to throw inhibition to the wind and go ahead and purchase it. And not only did I purchase this one, but I also purchased Shores at Hawk Run Hall because I couldn't make up my mind. Anyways, so I started this about 2 weeks ago, and I started it right in the middle, in that middle panel, because I want to finish the middle panel and then have my opportunity to work on any of those outside blocks that I choose. So, honestly, I think I've only put in 3 days on this total. I have not put that much time into this. This is being stitched on 40 count Country Mocha by Zweigart. Here's my piece. It's a smaller piece because some of the margins are not going to be great. I think it's the top and bottom margin is going to be pretty small. But the cost difference between this piece of fabric and the next size up was ridiculous, just to get me like an inch or, like all I needed was like an extra inch or 2 margin on the top and bottom for me to feel comfortable. And I was like, nah, I'll just save the money. And plus this comes serged, so it's not like it's going to unravel, so it'll be fine. But anyway, let me fold this up so you can see it. All right. So the last time you saw this, I had finished the cauldron, and I believe I had done the bat and the swirls, the smoke swirls. I think that's the last time you saw it. So what I did for my 4 hours during 24 hours of cross stitch is I did the witch's hand, her arm, her hair, the black of her body and her face color, and then started on the apron. And that got me 4 hours. And I have to say that that hair was kind of annoying. I feel like that hair slowed me up because I really had to concentrate on counting to make sure that I got it right. So let me show you this again. Whoop. So yeah, I'm gonna continue working on this block until it's finished. And I'm enjoying every second of this. So we will leave this for a moment. This is in my Maynia plans. So let me find my Maynia pile. This is a different pile. This is my Maynia pile. Okay. So then I couldn't decide what I wanted to work on since I wasn't going to work on Welcome to New York City. And what's funny is I ended up not even posting what I worked on after Halloween at Hawk Hollow, which is funny. So because I couldn't decide on what I wanted to work on, I ended up putting in 2 hours on Ex Machina. So I think, yeah. So the start of the next page that I was working on was those 2 hours. And then after that, for another 2 hours, I worked again on the perfect house, and I just did more of the lettering. And then the partial house, and then weather. So that's what I did for 24 hours of cross stitch. So I got in 21 hours out of the 24 over the weekend, and that was with sleeping full 8 hours each night, and I did some chores, and I did some cross stitch designing, and spent some time with my kitty. So it was a really enjoyable weekend, and I really felt productive. Seeing the progress in each of my pictures as I was taking them on the hour was really invigorating. So I enjoyed that immensely. But that was 24 hours of cross stitch. I believe Jen Lee schedules them once a quarter. You could definitely go to her channel. I know that she has a Facebook group about it. She has a website. She has a planner. She has a cross stitch planner that's not just for 24 hours of cross stitch. You can use it for other things. But yeah, super cool, super fun. Really enjoyed it. Probably wouldn't have done it if Jen Lee hadn't started it. So so next we are going to talk a bit about haul, because my last and final crazed order that I made a couple weeks ago finally came in. And then we'll talk about plans from tonight through Thursday, and then we'll talk Maynia plans. So my haul is that I purchased 4 charts and all the things I needed to kit them. Now this time, because I placed one order, and then a week later I placed a second order, and then a week later I placed a third order because I was crazy. And by the third order, I told myself that if I was going to purchase items, I needed to dig through my stash and kit from stash first. Like, I could purchase the patterns, but I needed to use what I had in stash. And if I didn't have it in stash and it was reasonable, then I could add it to the order. So I went through my DMC stash and I found a ton of stuff. I was actually able to kit up all of Hawk Hollow and all of Shores of all of Halloween at Hawk Hollow and all of Shores of Hawk Hollow, mostly from home. I needed 3 skeins for Shores of Hawk Hollow, and I needed 4 skeins for Halloween at Hawk Hollow. That's how much DMC I have collected. I feel like every time I go to a craft store, I pick up a couple skeins of DMC just in case. And also, when you design, it's really helpful, of course, to have the colors in front of you so that you can test stitch and really get a look at them visually versus what you see on the screen, because what you see on the screen is never accurate. Anyways, so from the third order, I was basically placing a floss order for the flosses that I absolutely did not have for the charts that I had on hand that I wanted to start soon. And then while I was there, I had my eye on a specific chart that I wanted to get in order to make it as a gift for someone. And I've been looking at this pattern for a while. It is yellow polka dot Bikweenie. And it is the dachshunds in their bikinis and their swimsuits. And there's just a ton of fun motifs there. But look at the little baby on top of the mama. It's just adorable. And my mom has a dachshund. She had a dachshund before that dachshund. And dachshunds are just super cherished in our house. Like, my sister would probably love to get this as a gift too, even though she doesn't have a dachshund. Like, she just loves vicariously through my mom. So anyway, I'm making my sister a fun Welcome to New York City stitch, and I thought that this would make a great gift to send to my mom. And my stepdad would get a kick out of this too, because they're dachshunds in bathing suits. But anyway, I thought this would make a fun gift to send them, just because. Not for Christmas, not for birthdays, but to send them it just because. So this was a very specific thing I wanted in my order. But of course, that's not all I got. So I got floss that I did for things that I didn't have on hand, and I purchased 4 charts. So I got the Halloween polka dot, I got the yellow polka dot Bikweenie, and I have all of its floss. I have a piece of fabric that I need to cut for this because there's another pattern that goes with it too, which I will show. I also got the Halloweenies. I was going to get the Winter Wienerland as well, but I really had to draw the line somewhere. So I got Halloweenies because I have to. I might keep this for myself, or I might send it to my mom or my sister, one of the two. So anyway, both of these, I'm going to stitch them on the same fabric. I have 2 different pieces to choose from, and I need to do a floss toss to decide which one would be better. So those are 2 of the kits. Then this has also been, so in my second order, I purchased a Prairie Schooler pattern, When Witches Go Riding. And I'd had my eye on it. It's like a classic, and I had my eye on it for a long time. But while I was there looking at that pattern, one of their Christmas patterns really stuck out to me. And it's one of those patterns that stayed with me. Like, oh, I wish I'd gotten that. I wish I'd just put it in the order. So when I placed the third order, it just kind of popped from my wish list into my cart. And it is Happy Christmas. And I've really been looking for a pattern that is stitched on black fabric for Christmas. I just love this aesthetic. And so I really, really wanted to stitch this. And bonus, I already have a piece of 32 count Belfast linen in black for this. So I already had the fabric. I just needed the floss. And you know what? I only needed 2 or 3 skeins of floss for this. I had all the rest. So here's the floss. That's the third pattern I got in my haul. And then I had all that stuff. I had floss. I had those 3 patterns, and that was it in my cart. And the total was coming out so reasonable. So in the spirit of Startitis, I went back to my wish list, and I was like, if I added one more pattern, what would I want to add? And so I did. I added one more pattern, and it is a pattern that I watched Olivia from Pumpkin Hollow Quilts stitch last year, and every time she stitched on it, I was like, I need that pattern. And it is Skeleton Crew. Is it the Skeleton Crew or Skeleton? No, it's Skeleton Crew by the Cricket Collection. And I cannot wait to stitch on this. I'm not sure when I'm going to start it, and when I purchased this, I knew that I was not going to start it right away. But it didn't need a lot of floss, or a lot of different kinds of floss, and I had a lot of it already on hand. And then to go along with it, I did buy a piece of fabric for it. This is a 32 count Belfast linen in Jade by Picture This Plus. Now, it's a little bit brighter than you would think for a ghostly ship, but I hadn't used this fabric yet before, and so I wanted to try something new. And it's showing up bluer on camera. It's really more of like a sea foam green. And I'm debating about whether I might want to coffee dye this a bit, bake it in the oven a little bit. I might do that just to kind of grunge it up a little bit because it is a little bright. But that's for another day. This is not coming out in Maynia. This is not, I don't know when this is coming out. I may start this on the 13th of a month for Dark 13 stitching maybe, but we'll see. So anyway, one more time, Skeleton Crew, one of my favorites. And on this one, I'll probably start in the middle, which means I'll be working on mast, that white mast, for days and days. That's okay. So this one goes in this pile. So those are the 4 charts I purchased from 123 Stitch. Now I have one more piece of haul because the Be Well Moon Crystal Bouquet by Wild Violet Cross Stitch that I started this past weekend, that was a haul as well. I purchased that on Friday night because I was like, no, we're starting it early. We're doing it now. And while I was on Etsy, I got that from Etsy. While I was on Etsy, I was like, maybe one other pattern. Maybe I'll get one more pattern. And I ended up getting this is from Stitchrovia. It's called Awesome Myth. And it says, be so awesome, people think you're a myth. And it's got a narwhal. I love this so much. Now, I bought this for a very specific purpose. I want to stitch this and take it to work and have it in my shared office with my colleague. Because we typically do, we always do things that have never been done before at our work. We have to do them within policy, but there is no procedure for the things we end up needing to do. We are constantly innovating new processes and procedures at our work. And we joke around, like my colleague, we joke around that she's like Hermione from Harry Potter because she works magic. So the sentiment of this would just be a really nice pick-me-up to share with my team at work, of just being like, this is a group gift to my work colleagues that we can just have up in the office, because this is what we do every day. We're basically narwhals, you guys. So that is haul. Unfortunately, this did not make it into my Maynia plans. So I don't know when I'm going to stitch it. Oh well. All right. Okay. So as you can see, I have lots of things that I could be working on. But that's cool. So let's talk plans now through Thursday. Today I was working on the perfect house because now that I got the door done, I really want to get a bunch of letters done. And this was easy just to leave out after that crazy weekend. And just pick up and put down on my breaks and before work just to get a couple letters in. So I'm going to continue working on this tonight while I watch some Flosstube. And I don't know if I showed this, but I'm also charting this in a smaller one. I don't know if I showed that. And these are going to be together in the same pattern, in the same listing. Just the option of making a smaller one because I realize this is a lot. This is something I would want up in my house because I love like quotes and I love literature, and this makes me feel like the book. But this one might make a great gift because it still has the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings sentiment. You know what I mean? Anyways, so I'm going to stitch on this tonight. I'm just going to continue on with it. Something simple. My brain doesn't have to work, which is great. And then tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm going to work on Night Walked Down. Because Night Walked Down did not make it into 24 Hours of Cross Stitch or last week at all. I did not work on this last week at all. So Night Walked Down is by the Blue Flower. I believe this was a market release in 2019. And ever since I first saw this, I fell in love with it. I love the aesthetic. I love everything about it. Yeah. So I started this in the middle because I wanted to start on her first and work on the cat, and then probably work on some of the letters above her and just kind of work on what I feel like. So I've only put in maybe 2 or 3 days because this is one of my start-itis starts. I am stitching this on 40 count Truffle by Picture This Plus, which is a really beautiful, like, soft rose pink. And I thought that this visually matched the photo quite a bit, even though the photo does not call for this. Let me fold it well. This is, of course, completely blown out. You cannot see the pink at all. Sorry. Let's see. So, started in the middle. And I did her hair first and then kind of worked her body down. And of course I had to stitch that moon. And now I'm working on the cat. So I will have 2 days in a row to work on this. And I want to finish her dress and I want to finish the cat. And then we will see where we go from there. I might work on some of the bottom border or something. I like working on borders in pieces, like here and there, like switch back and forth. Because if I leave the border till the end, I will hate myself. But if I do the border completely at the beginning, I'll just get super bored and I'll put it away. So we will do a happy medium. So that will come out tomorrow and Wednesday. I almost said tomorrow and Thursday as if today were Tuesday. I wish. Today was a long day. Ugh. Okay, this can go in a different pile. Okay. And then on Thursday, because I did not work on this on the weekend, I need to work on Welcome to New York City again. So I'll work on this on Thursday and we'll see how far we get. This is also in my Maynia plans. So that is through Thursday plans. Now let's talk about Maynia. I've never participated in Stitch Maynia before. Because I just spent all of April basically starting all the things, I did not want to do that in May as well. If I get too many projects going, it's just going to cause way too much anxiety and like kill my stitching bug. I'm really happy to be getting back to goals and like progression and working through things. I'm really happy to be getting to that point. It really helps my mental state. So I upfront decided that I needed more than 1 day on any project that I'm going to do. So right then, that's at least 2 days on a project. And then I thought, well, the weekends, if I did Friday through Sunday on a project, that would help with some of the larger projects or the projects that I want to get more time in on. So when I looked at the calendar and I broke it up by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Thursday in those slots, I came up with 13 slots. So originally, I was going to do 8 whips and 5 new starts. And I was going to put them in a jar and I was going to randomly draw them. Who needs control? Who needs to know when they're working on something? It's fine. And then during 24 Hours of Cross Stitch, when I started getting a lot of progress and I started really thinking about the pieces that I wanted to get done faster and that I wanted to put more time in on, I realized that I couldn't be so arbitrary with Maynia if I was going to do it. So I revisited my list. I basically took out all the starts and I really focused on the pieces that I wanted to get some decent progress in on and decided to cut my list down from 13 to 7. And I'm going to stitch 6 of them twice. So 6 of them are going to get drawn twice in for those slots, and then one of them is going to get worked on one time. And so what I'm going to do is I have the slots, a 3-day slot, 2-day slot, whatever. And I indicated on the items which ones I wanted for a 3-day start, a 3-day slot, and which ones I wanted for 2-day slots. We're getting very technical here, you guys. So what I'm going to do, or what I did, is I wrote down each chart on a piece of paper, and I have 2 different bags. I have a 3-day bag and a 2-day bag for those slots. And each week on Flosstube, I'm going to be drawing my 3 slots for the week. Tonight, I get to draw my first 2 slots because we have a 3-day slot this coming weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I don't film until Monday night, and I usually stitch before work in the mornings. So I will need to know what I'm going to be stitching on for Monday and Tuesday. So tonight we will pull 2. So what are the charts for Maynia, you ask? Well, let me get back to that. Okay, so like I said, I have 7 charts. I'm going to do Welcome to New York City, and this is only going to come out once for 1 slot, and it is going to be a 2-day slot. Now, because I'm stitching this on Thursday right before Maynia starts, if the 2-day slot for next Monday and Tuesday comes up as this, I'm putting it back and pulling another one because I need a break. So that's one. I'm going to be starting, so here's the start. I'm going to be starting Yellow Polka Dot Bikweenie because this is a gift and I need to get working on this. And of course, this one and every other pattern I mentioned will be done twice. So this one is going to be 2 2-day slots. So now this can go in this pile. Then we have something you haven't seen. Well, I mean, you've seen it in Flosstube number 4. I showed it as a whip I've worked on in the last several months, but I have not touched this since January. And this is the Commodore, which is, it's charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. It's artwork by Marta, Dahlig, and I love her so much. I have 2 pages done on her, and she's going to come out twice in Maynia. She's going to come out in 2 3-day slots. Honestly, I'm hoping for a page finish. We will see. Let me show you where she's at right now. This is being stitched on 32 count white Belfast linen. Sorry, I had to figure out how many strands. 2 strands of floss over 1 thread of fabric. So 2 over 1 tent stitch. And it is tiny. Like, look at my hand. Look at my hand. That's a page. Those are 2, that's 2 pages, you guys. Let me see. And all it is background. That first page is almost all black except for a little of one other color. And then the page 2 is 3 colors. So honestly, because it's tent stitch and until I get to her head, it is not confetti. So I actually think in 6 full days that I might be able to get a page finish on her. To give you an idea of how big, now this is a normal size Haid chart, but because I'm stitching it 2 over 1 on 32 count, like, this is it. This is it, you guys. This is so small. But she's gonna look great. I want to frame her in a gorgeous frame and have her like in my living room. So she will come out twice. You'll go here. Okay. So the fourth chart I'm going to work on is one of my patterns, Vale Stitchery patterns, and it is called the Mausoleum. And I've only stitched on this for like 2 days so far. And I started in the top left corner. And let me show you where I'm at. I am stitching this on 28 count on a 28 count even weave that I dyed myself. It's like a grayish purple color. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. That's pretty accurate. So this is on 28 count. It's 2/2, so it's pretty large for me. I typically don't work on this large of fabric anymore. I love 40 count. But this is a gorgeous even weave, and my stitches are stitching up just, they're like butter. So I'm going to really enjoy working on this. Now, this is going to come out for two-day slots. And I am excited to see the progress that I get on this. Now the Mausoleum, is part of my Adventurer series. I have this one, and I have one called Into a Tavern, which it has the sentiment of once upon a time an adventurer walked into a tavern, because in a lot of fantasy stories, that's where the inciting incident happens for the storyline. So those two, and then I have a third one in that series that I'm currently designing right now, which we'll actually talk about in a minute. So let's see. The fifth chart I will be working on for Maynia is the Perfect House. I mean, seriously, you guys, it's just a lot of letters, and then the border is super easy. I mean, I would love to get this done. So this is coming out for two-day slots in May. And I cannot wait to work on that. One rule is going to be, if I pull something twice in a row, the second one it's going back, because I don't want to work on something 2 times in a row. All right, the sixth chart I'm going to work on is something brand new. I did design this a couple of months ago, but I haven't worked on it yet. And I'm excited to get started because I have fabric for it and everything. This is called Into That Darkness, and it's a quote from The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. And it says, "Deep into that darkness, peering, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before." And it's got a little motif down here, and it's got some backstitched lettering for Edgar Allan Poe. And then up here, you've just got your silhouettes of some blackbirds, and I would love to finish this in an oval frame. So just some gothic lettering. Again, it will go in my living room. Don't ask me why. I'm excited to work on that. This one's actually available because it's lettering, you guys. This is available in my shop right now, valestitchery.etsy.com. The Mausoleum is also available in the shop. The Perfect House is not up there yet because I was fiddling around with the coloring. But that should be getting into the shop by this weekend. Let's see, one more chart. And the last chart, chart number 7, I actually cannot show anything of yet because it is the design I'm currently working on finishing up designing. But it's going to be called Home Sweet Home. It's going to be number 3 in the Adventurer series, and I cannot wait to show you this. I am so excited for this chart. It's going to have some mythical creatures in it. It's going to have a really cute cottage in it. It's going to have some really pretty bright flowers. It's going to be a really cheerful piece. So, yeah, I can't wait. Hopefully I will be able to show you that, at least the concept for it, and before I start it, of course, before I start stitching on it, next Monday night during Flosstube. So, okay, so those are the 7. Those are the 7 charts I'm going to be working on in May. And Home Sweet Home, because it's a brand new pattern and it's going to be kind of large, I am giving that 2 3-day slots, And into that darkness, I am giving 1 3-day slot and 1 2-day slot because I haven't started it yet. And into that darkness is going to be stitched on a 46 count linen by Lakeside Linens called Cedar Plank, which I started something else on one side of it, but this will fit on the other side. And I can't wait. Oh, that fabric is just so grungy and grayish and brown looking. It's just, I love it. And it's the only, it's the highest count of fabric I've ever worked on, and I love it. I am really excited to one day try 56 count. When I finally get a chance to walk into the attic again, which is my local needlework store, that's going to be my goal, is to get some 56 count, get my first sampler, and pick out some floss for it. I will not, up front, I will say I will not be able to afford silks, so I'm going to have to figure something else out because there's no way I'm going to be able to do silks. But I want to get my first sampler from the attic and do it on 56 count. So stay tuned for that. That will be a fun time in the future. So, oh my gosh, you guys. So we had whips from last week. We had 24 hours of cross stitch. We had haul. We had plans for this week. And then we talked about Maynia for all of May. And it's an hour in. And I'm going to pull my first 3-day slot, which is for this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I will pull for Monday and Tuesday. And there are many possibilities that I may have to put them back. So let's pull one. This is the 3-day this is for this Friday. So excited, you guys. I pulled the Commodore. So the Commodore is my Heaven and Earth piece, which I just showed you. 2 pages finished. Let's get working on that 3rd page. I'm excited. All right. And then this is the 2-day slot for Monday and Tuesday. Let's see what we got. Ooh! The Mausoleum. You guys, I'm so excited. These are 2 charts that I haven't stitched on in a while. They're like perfect to have pulled right now. So there you have it. Tomorrow I will work on, or tonight I'm working on The Perfect House. Tomorrow and Wednesday I'm working on Night Walk Down. Friday, I'm going to work on Welcome to New York City. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I will work on the Commodore. And then on Monday, when you see me, I will be working on the Mausoleum. And then on Monday, we'll pull for Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday. So we'll get to see what the next 3 projects will be. And by that point, I should have my Home Sweet Home pattern completely all the colors figured out and everything, and that ready to go. So the only thing I'm concerned about is fabric. No, I actually think I have fabric for that. So anyway, it'll be fine. So anyways, we are at an hour and 3 minutes, so I'm not going to blather on about anything else. I think we had a lovely stitching conversation, and I'm going to leave it at that. So if you participated in 24 hours of cross stitch, definitely let me know how it went for you below. I would love to hear how other people worked their own weekend and did their own style with it. And if you're planning to do Maynia, let me know what is the one chart or the one thing that you're doing as part of your Maynia that you're most looking forward to in May. I would love to hear that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching if you made it this far, and I hope you have a great rest of your week and that you get a lot of stitchy time in and that you're staying well, and I will see you next time. Bye!